Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Best Darn Diddly Review Show. This is a weekly podcast for anyone who loves The Simpsons or ever has loved The Simpsons, hosted by two dudes that grew up on The Simpsons. My name is Miles, better known as Mr. Most Days Off, and today we come to the conclusion of our 12th season of The Simpsons, reviewing every single episode along the way and then some at this point. It is our season 12 finale, Spectacular.
Spectacular.
And of course, joining me as always is your spectacular host with the most, Richie the Whiz Kid. How you doing today, Rich?
I don't think it just hit me until you said season 12. Like, I know when we started off, we were like, yeah, we'll go through all of them. But now being, over a third of the way to caught up with the actual show, it baffles me. You said it last week. We're about to hit our 6-year anniversary, I think. So this is nuts, dude. This is absolutely nuts. I can't believe we've gone this far. We've released an episode every week. I'm still very proud of that. I point that out all the time. But yeah, this is strange territory, man. And I busted out the no sleeves today. I just realized so. But let me go ahead. You can watch us on YouTube and see these nasty pale arms with the tan bottom parts from work. But let me throw it back to the guy who's just pasty and nasty all over. The man, the myth, the hungry Milesy. It's Miles.
Man, the thing that's like really baffling me, I think, anything is October, and it's, just what, like 10 months now? Isn't that like 10 months basically? I might be slightly off on that, but 9 months. Like, it's been a long time. We did a lot of Best Darn Everythings, I guess, to fill in some time in between booking and whatnot.
Yeah, I think, like, for the past few seasons now, we've had difficulty at times getting some people booked for the right week on the right show. But I almost feel like there are times where we took a little bit longer this time. We knew, behind the scene here, behind the diddly, within the diddly.
We haven't done one of those in a while.
Yeah. We knew that Al Jean wanted to do Homer.
Oh, yeah. That was a big reason that we did do a lot of delays. You're right.
And it took, once we got it like kind of on the books, it took a little bit of scheduling to make sure we could line that up right. So that's what the Best Darn Everythings are for, to give us a little bit of a break and talk about something different and fun. Because even though I can speak for Miles and say we both love The Simpsons, at least for me personally, there are times where I'm like, I have to go home, sit down, and fucking take notes over something that I've seen 18 times before. This is ridiculous. But then I sit down and take the notes, and I laugh like the whole way through. And I go, oh, I forgot about this. But like, just the thought, it feels like I have homework every week, and I don't like that feeling. I'm an adult. I don't have to do homework anymore, man. But yeah, it's still like, I feel like every season that feeling becomes more and more like, oh. And in my head, I do it like, oh, it's 30 minutes. But no, it's like 21 and a half minutes. It's not. It's so easy to do. At times I'm just like, damn it, again.
Yeah, no, I don't know if I feel quite there, but pretty close to sometimes where it's just like, oh man, I have this podcast that we got to get doing on Wednesday, and it's like I still have to watch the episode, and I do the episode, and then the episode with commentary, and usually the episode again if there's time, and I inevitably spans out into all these little rabbit hole chases where I'm like finding all these trivia informations, and I end up doing research on some fucking celebrity that died in the 1940s or whatever that they're referencing for a Mr. Burns line. So yeah, it's a process, and definitely I think we've revealed a few times the Best Darn Everythings are both a crutch to fix our schedule, as well as a crutch to keep us mentally sound when we just need to talk about something other than Simpsons. Though there's been a lot of really fun conversations that have come from the Best Darn Everythings, and some really cool guests too. I think that's a neat thing for me about the show is I have a lot of friends that know that we do a podcast, but they're just like, man, I've never been a Simpsons person, or whatever, or just for whatever reason it doesn't work out.
Or funny in most of their cases.
Yeah, that's very reasonable. They're all quite sad people.
Oh.
But no, it's led to some cool opportunities just to talk to some people that we wouldn't have otherwise been able to talk to. And even branched out where it's like, hey man, I could come and talk about The Simpsons in this format because you guys are hardly professional.
Yeah. They don't come on our show to boost their numbers and notoriety. That's for sure.
Yeah. No, it's fun though. It's really fun. Yeah, 12 seasons, dude. I was just kind of peeking. The 300th episode of The Simpsons is Barding Over, which is the 11th episode of the 14th season. So just real quick math, that means that we've done approximately 260-ish episodes of The Simpsons right now. Which is just kind of crazy. And it definitely has that same sort of feeling how like this is cliche, but it's like the end of June right now. And I was just having the thought like, oh my God, I can't believe 2022 is like halfway over. That can't be right. Man. It's still 2019 in my mind. And that's kind of how I feel about The Simpsons. I still like, no, of course we're in the golden age. It's like season 7 right now, right?
We're in like April of The Simpsons run, right?
Yeah.
I'm just terrified because I'm like, this is what I'm leaving behind. Like after we're both in the grave, anybody at any point in the history of the internet still existing can pull us up and listen to us. And oh my God, what are we going to sound like 50 years from now?
They didn't listen to us while we were alive. Why are they going to listen to us when we're dead? This is not a legacy we're
going to be appreciated well after our death, Miles.
Dude, like our best hope for survival is we are like the small print somewhere of like a list of all the other many people that had Simpsons, podcast or art or whatever to do that. And I mean, I'm thinking they're going to start with the top 20 Simpsons podcasts before they even get to us. So we're probably safe.
Same the worst for last. If we're mentioned last, I'll be happy.
No, dude, I'm putting it out in the universe, and I've said this at least once, probably on this show, maybe more. But I'm hopeful that our tenacity gets us noticed by the Simpsons writers' room enough that when they need to just straight up punk a podcast, like when they are ready to just punch at it as hard as they can, we are there. Like we will be your crash test dummies. Like come and make fun of us. And make us Simpsons famous. I'm ready for it. Like, yes, we are those nerds. And yes, we would like to be immortalized in yellow.
That would be like a bucket list item, like at the top of the list, because once you've made it there, you're good to go at that point. Like you might as well take it now.
Honestly, that might be the new dream. Because like when this started, it was like, okay, let's have fun conversations about a show I love. And then it was like, people are kind of digging this. Maybe we can get people from the show to come on. And then it was like, we've talked to a lot of really cool people from the show. And don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of other really cool people on the show that I would love to talk to, of course. And hopefully we'll be able to continue to reach out and be fortunate enough to have those conversations. But I think it's time. The bar is being raised. The new goal of this show is to get our asses drawn into a Simpsons episode, even if we're just like the background at a like podcast convention or something. Like put our logo there, which is obviously a ripoff of their own logo already. So It's probably just going to get us noticed for copyright infringement is all that's going to happen.
Hey, that's the thing that finally takes us down. I'm good with that.
I sell those out of my back pocket at comedy shows anytime I can for gas money. So like it's inevitably going to come around eventually.
That is a wonderful dream to have, immortalized in yellow. And then that'd be the name of our biography at the end of our lives. So immortalized in yellow. Or
at least the best darn everything episodes we do to talk about our experience.
It's all circular. Wait, not circular, secular. I can't talk now. I retire. Goodbye.
It was a fun 12 seasons.
Yeah, we didn't even make it.
I wish we could at least get through the end of this episode before you quit, because I am genuine. I'm gonna say this. I am genuinely the most curious I have ever been about what your top 5 is going to look like compared to mine, because I think this one might be all over the place. But we said that like the last 3 seasons, and then we always end up like super in sync with each other.
I felt going in that this is going to be the most difficult top 5 to do. And what I did is I pulled up the streaming service I used to watch it, and it's got pictures for each episode. And I just went through and I counted how many episodes I would consider so good that I would watch right that second. And the first count, it was like 6 or 7. And I was like, oh, this is going to be a lot easier than I thought it would.
See, I had a top 8. I had a top 8 that I had to whittle down to a top 5. And
I bet it's going to be a lot closer to each other's than you think.
Maybe you're right. I'm very curious about it though. I'm But again, I've always said that, and I think that every season we do surprise ourselves with that. But I'll go ahead and spoil it. It's not going to be a surprise. If you listen to our podcast, you already know my least favorite episode of the season was Bye Bye Nerdy. Like I feel weird how much I didn't like that episode to the point that I almost feel like I need to rewatch it and see if I was just being like a sourpuss that day or something. But like I do remember it just fundamentally bothering me, and I did list it as my bottom episode, but I know that when we were prepping for this show, oops, spoiler alert, we actually are, or I guess that's another behind the diddly, we actually do prep for this show, which might make it sadder, but when we were prepping for this show, you had told me that you specifically wanted to talk about Bye Bye Nerdy, so I'm curious, what do you have to say about that?
Well, my bottom one, hold for the tension. This may shock and appall you. My bottom episode of the season was Bye Bye Nerdy.
Okay.
That's all I wanted to say.
Legitimately thought that this was going to go a way different direction whenever you said that, because I thought you were going to be like, I decided to rewatch the episode and I realized that we had just not processed it on the, I don't know. I thought you were going to come at me with some weird shit. What do you want to say about it?
I want to say that I think it's like, I think it is the worst episode of the show ever up to this point.
Oh, okay. Ever up to this point. Okay.
Yeah.
When you said that for a second, I was like, oh shit, there's going to be some like Lady Gaga people that are going to be coming at you on Twitter. You might want to turn your notifications on. And yes, I do mean on, because you never fucking check Twitter otherwise.
I look at it for whatever's trending to get my news, like, every normal American. But I feel like up to this point is easily the worst episode of The Simpsons through the first 12 seasons. And I honestly feel like that it kind of has a fundamental shift on how I feel about the show.
Okay.
I feel like it took even the few episodes after it. Like my top 5, most of them are from the first, 6 or 7 episodes of the season, if I remember correctly. With the exception of like 1 or 2 at the back end, maybe. But I feel like there was a shift this season in general, and I feel like a lot of it had to do with Bye Bye Nerdy. It honestly felt like a very lazy episode. You didn't use your guest star at all.
At all.
You were just using grunt noises, which, that's not what you do with guest stars. I mean, that was probably the easiest paycheck she's ever picked up. And then the other thing was like, I couldn't get over the fact that they basically rehashed the Bart and Nelson story from the first or second season, the Bart the General one, which we talked about on.
That's the first season, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, and that was a very primitive version of it. But yeah, you're right. It's similar concept for sure.
Yeah, so like I feel like it's the first time where it was just like, I don't know. Here we go. We got this story. Let's go with it. And I remember when we were doing the podcast, you talked about the initial ending they had scripted where Lisa leads like a revolt in Juvie. And I still I want to see that.
Would have been such a better episode. I want
to see that episode, man. Like, yeah. I think they missed the mark on this one, which I don't know if we've ever truly said about the writing staff at The Simpsons. And I also want to throw in there that in the past, we've always said that the worst episode of The Simpsons is better than a lot of other TV programming. If this episode were coming on and I was watching Impractical Jokers for the 20th time on that one episode, I'd probably go Impractical Jokers. Honestly, I don't think I would be able to force myself to watch this episode again. Maybe if I went to a friend's house and they happened to be watching a Simpsons episode and they had that one on, but I would do what I never do, and I'd probably have my phone out on the couch the whole time while the episode's playing, which I know most people do that anyways. I don't. If I'm into something, I don't do that. It rubbed me the wrong way. Maybe,
and this might be an idea for a future one of these, like a finale spectacular. Maybe we do this at 20, at season 20. I mean, if we were doing a battle royale or a tournament of the worst Simpsons episodes thus far, this, I agree, would be my number one pick right now. Like, it would probably be this one and some of the clip shows, and then like the middle chunk of season 1. And that's not to disrespect one, but we just know it was a rougher show back in the day. But that might be a fun idea, actually. Maybe we could do something where we get like Twitter involved and do like a bracket. And I know again, the Lady Gaga episode is like infamously hated. I know that one. Everybody Lisa Goes Gaga, I believe it's called.
You had the Saddlesore Galactica or whatever.
Saddlesore Galactica is also probably going to need to be on that list just because a lot of people hate that. I genuinely like the Keebler Elves parody. I know everybody hates it. I thought that was fun. Yeah, it's stupid, but it's okay to be stupid sometimes, y'all. Like that's
how Family Guy's made a whole career. Oh wait,
that's true. Like, and that's what people get mad about. Is it's just like, well, it's not the Simpsons way, and it's just like, you know what? It's funny when smart people do dumb things. Like, it's still funny. Like, I don't know.
It's just I feel like Bye Bye Nerdy changes how I feel in a small percentage way about the show in general. And I don't know if this is something where
paradigm shift. Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if this is
that
something
one's for
like,
Chris Manley, for what it's worth.
I feel like we need to bookmark that episode to say, is this the end of the golden era? Like, that's how strongly I feel against this episode.
So again, the common one is people would say it's already over, but I will say that I don't disagree with that necessarily, and that or at least I can go for sure this far. This was the first episode that we have reviewed on this podcast where I genuinely did not enjoy it. Like, it was one of those, just like, it felt icky. It felt.
It breaks your heart to say it too.
It does. It really hurts.
It's like looking at your kid and being like, "I'm disappointed in you," which neither of us are fathers. But
I wish that I had more insight as to why. And I do agree that it does feel a lot of it was like rehashed, and then weird choice with the guest star, just because usually they're so good about utilizing those guest stars, and that's what makes it really fun. Like, thinking back to episodes with, like, I mean, it's almost cheating, but like Mark Hamill, when he not only played himself, but he also played the drill sergeant, like for Lisa's boot camp or whatever, like, that's cool. Like, that's really cool that's, and like all the times we've talked about how Mike Scully will be talking about, oh yeah, we had these guys in the studio. They were so chill. They had such a good time. They were making suggestions of other ways we could make fun of them. NSYNC is a great example from this season with them having to explain to Justin like why it's funny that he uses word, and to Justin's credit, like them, like him basically being like, I don't get it, but I'll trust you guys because you're fucking the Simpsons. That sounded weird. You're not having relations with the Simpsons. You are the Simpsons, and just having that willingness to let yourself go down on that or go out on that.
It's like, after talking about getting with the Simpsons thing going down, you got to be careful. This show's definitely rated PG.
Is it?
But yeah, there's just the tonal shift in the show after that point. And it's, we talked about this on last week's show, but I feel like every week we get on to do Best Darn Diddly. I could be winning major money if we were like on a Vegas betting line of the commentary didn't have much to say this week, because every week, pretty much this whole season, I would have been putting money down saying, yeah, there's not enough to say on the commentary. And I feel like in general lately, maybe for the past season or two or season and a half, I feel like the commentary tracks have been shorter, at least from the way that you've observed them. And I feel like I said this last week, my notes are getting shorter. Like I am hunting for stuff to write down. And I just feel like there's so much stuff, even when they get absurd with the tall tales. It's like, well, everyone knows these stories. And unless I can find something interesting to talk about, I don't need to write a note here for it. And I feel like a lot of the humor is a little more straightforward. Whereas in the past, it's like, oh, remember all these great jokes, and oh, this is a callback. And I feel like they still do the callbacks to some extent, but I feel like it's a lot more straightforward, at least for the second half of the season, if not the whole season. And I just think it's a shift change. It's a tone change.
Yeah. Well, and it's one of those too, I to some extent, I have to like try to put myself in the position of the writers in the room in this 12th season of The Simpsons. And they probably are well aware of the fact that they are grasping at straws for fresh material. That's why the interesting commentary tracks are like when they actually read about real life incidences, or like, I think it was Mike Scully had listened to like a radio program about one of the episodes in this season. And that inspired him to, write the Simpsons will do this. Like, it'll be like, there was a baseball team that tried to move cities. Like, what would be Homer's reaction to that? Like, stuff like that. But largely, if they don't have something interesting popping up in the news, they are having to grasp for whatever they can. And I think that's why we get that feeling of repetitiveness for Bye Bye Nerdy.
Yeah, it's affected me more than I initially thought that it was. And as far as the jokes go, I wrote down this note, and I feel like it's going to make me seem like an asshole, but I'm going to just read it.
We already thought you were an asshole, man. You should just say it.
I'm just confirming it at this point. There's 3 kinds of people in this world, Chuck. I put less smart jokes on top of my more straightforward point. I do feel like they lost their touch a little bit this season.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say I caught a newer episode on TV last weekend, and it was like I decided to watch it because it says Marge manages Homer's fantasy football team while they're working on their relationship on a boat with Nick Offerman. And I was like, that sounds like a great episode.
That seems like a lot of W's in the columns. Yeah.
Yeah. And I laughed more in that than I did on most of the episodes on like the back half of the season.
Very cool.
With the exception of the last 2 weeks.
I've seen some great recent episodes. There's been a few of them that I've tuned in for. I really liked.
I feel like there's going to be maybe not the quote unquote golden age, but there's a silver age, or there could be like a plutonium or platinum age. There could be some kind of age we haven't even discovered.
There's going to be a revival of sorts. And honestly, what we should probably just be prepared to expect more of is it's going to be ebbs and flows. At this point, there's going to be peaks and valleys, and that's true with so much of life in general. But in this case, I've read on IMDb a little bit and just seeing people's reactions, and there does seem to be a general consensus that we are in a dip in the 12, 13, and even part of the 14 season, but somewhere around 14 or 15, it's pretty largely agreed upon that there is another rise in the Simpsons like quality for a while. So it'll be interesting. And of course, all of this is of course subjective, because there's probably somebody that thinks Bye Bye Nerdy is the best episode of The Simpsons ever. Nobody probably dumb. So it's probably it's exclusively our listener. Yeah.
We lost our one and only listener.
It was a fun ride. But yeah, just it's all subjective, of course. And if you love this season, that's awesome. I'm happy for you, and I hope you keep watching along with us and listening to our show. And I guess to some extent, that's why I bring it up. We're going to go through these low points, or what's considered low points, and we're going to keep grinding away to try to review these fairly. And I will admit, I don't know if you feel the same way, but there is an anxiety that comes along with that, because I reach out to these fucking Simpsons writers all the time to try to get them to come on our show. And I don't want to kiss their ass to get them here. I want to do this show honestly and like actually genuinely talk about how the episodes make us feel and how we experience them as a kid or for the first time or whatever. It's also weird that, as you pointed out, that we're approaching a time where like basically the next episode that airs, the next Treehouse of Horror, I had a driver's license. So I remember even seeing the ads for that. It had a Harry Potter thing. And at the time, I'll be honest, when 16-year-old Miles probably used the phrase Harry Potter is gay. Sorry for the hate crime or whatever, but that's who I was as a 16-year-old.
I mean, there was a South Park episode where they yelled that at the kids too.
100%. And that was totally me being a douchey little asshole. But I just got my driver's license. So we're going to be approaching some episodes where I'm not going to have seen them, or it will be have like on a rerun or whatever the case is going to be. But anyway, it is weird saying that.
Let's talk about that. Like I was eyeballing the episode list for next season, and there was 4 or 5 episodes where I'm like, I don't remember what this episode's about. Even reading the description, I don't recall this. And I was like, I'm pretty sure when I watch it, I'm going to remember it. But like, and then I started thinking like 2001, I think I got my driver's license in 2002. I got mine late in the high school year because I didn't really care about getting it. But I was like, I think we're hitting in the territory, which blows my mind, where I'm going to be seeing stuff that maybe I haven't seen before. And that scares me a little bit, because you've been watching the episodes 3 times each. And I, like, with the exception of a few cases, I've only had to
Yeah,
watch
you're gonna have
once.
to start committing more time to this podcast.
Exactly. Yeah. You're so unfamiliar with this stuff.
I'll be watching them twice, dude. I mean, honestly, like to your point, literally right off the top, for what it's worth, I have absolutely seen Treehouse of Horror 12, and I love Harry Potter now because I'm not like, an idiot who has to pretend they're macho or whatever. But immediately after looking at the Parent Wrap, I don't off the top of my head remember an episode where Homer and Bart are handcuffed to each other. Like that does not shine out, or that does not stick out to me. I don't have a lot. There's several of these, honestly, that I'm looking at that I'm like, maybe I've seen that. I do know I've seen Half Decent Proposal, Jaws Wired Shut for sure. I'm looking at some of these. Right off the bat, though, I even see there's the episode where we're going to get the old man yells at cloud thing that is absolutely famous for, if nothing else, memes.
All right. Well, I mean, we usually do this at the end, but you want to talk about which ones you're looking forward to right now?
Sure, man. I mean, honestly, we might as well, right? The big one is obvious for me is Weekend at Burnsies, which is where Homer gets medical marijuana. And we believe it or not, Rich, my comedian friends, there's a line of people that wanted to claim that episode. So, wild. No, I think it's going to be a buddy of mine named Hugo who has a podcast. He's not Bart's like other half who's locked in an attic. He's actually like another person named Hugo. But Weekend at Burnsies,
that there is a height requirement for that one.
Sure.
Height requirement.
Nice.
Height.
Yeah. I'm also
talking about weed.
Also excited to see Stan Lee is going to be a guest star in one of the episodes that we have in this next season. So that's obviously a big one.
Isn't that I Am Furious Yellow?
It is. Yes.
That's the one I have at the top of my list that I'm excited about watching.
Yeah. And then honestly, dude, I'm looking at a lot of these and I'm like, man, I don't remember these at all. The Blunder Years I'm excited about just because I like the title already. But I don't have any knowledge if I remember it or not. We might be in this next season. This is going to be a very low hitting season for me in terms of what I've seen.
Low hitting Susan. That's something we need to get trending right now. It's hashtag low. I can't even remember what you said anymore. Low hitting season. Low hitting Susan. All right. So I listed I Am Furious Yellow. The second one I put down is Papa's Got a Brand New Badge, which is the season finale next season. And
I don't remember that one, dude.
I wrote it down because I don't remember it, but I read the synopsis for it and I was like, oh, that sounds exciting. And I'm looking forward to seeing that. And I'm like, well, calm down, Richie, because you probably have seen it and it's at the back of your mind. And there's a reason for that.
I mean, it's a 7.8 out of 10 rating on IMDb, which we've discussed isn't perfect, but for what it's worth, I think that might be. I think that's literally the highest rated episode of the season. Just what I'm looking at right now. Okay. Yes, the second episode rated is 7.6, and that's the Treehouse of Horror. I'm sorry, Weekend at Burnsies is a 7.7, and so is I Am Furious Yellow. So there's a couple of them at that ranking, but that Papa's Got a Brand New Badge is the highest rating episode on IMDb of next season.
I had two other ones written down that I'm interested in watching and reviewing. One of them's The Lastest Gun in the West, because I remember where Bart befriends an old TV cowboy because he's running from a dog that's trying to bite him, and the cowboy scares the dog away. So he becomes like Bart's role model, even though I think he's an old drunk. So that one's just a little bit like I like the story on that one from what I remember. The last one I wrote down that I'm looking forward to reviewing is one of the first episodes of the season, which is Homer the Mo. And
I do like that one. Yeah.
Mo goes back to college, I believe, and Homer takes over the bar. Until Mo comes back and changes the bar up. So there's some stuff to look forward to next season.
For sure.
But I feel like, and you said ebbs and flows earlier. I wrote down that this season still has great episodes, but it does feel slightly different than previous seasons, which goes back to what I was saying earlier, just about the tone of the show and the way that all this goes. I definitely feel like the peak of this season, it does not, like if the straight lines going across the board, the peak is very, very low and the valley is very, very high, if that makes sense, or deep. So it's just, I don't know.
I think we're in for a couple of rough ones, dude. I do. I think this next season might be a lot more misses. Low hitting season, bro. Low hitting season.
Is this the worst season of the show so far?
Season 12?
That's what I want to ask. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, what the only other season that I would put up against it is season 1, and that just doesn't feel fair. Like,
yeah, and it was only 10 episodes and like so many iconic moments. So yeah, you'd have to say season 12 is the lowest point so far.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think 12 is like huge. I want to be clear. You might disagree. I don't think 12 is like a dramatic step down. I think it is a step down, and it only feels dramatic to us because of how important, especially apparently these first 11 seasons have been to us. Because so far, all of these episodes have been stuff that we grew up watching reruns of, watching them live, watching them every day after high school, watching them every day after middle school, watching them when I wasn't supposed to be before bed. Like, you know, just like watching these in the way that was most repetitively available at that time. It's not like today where you have the DVDs or Disney Plus and you could just binge it all the time. So it is different, but watching episodes as often as possible, as many times a day as we could. Like, these were those episodes.
Well, and I remember at the end of season 11, we said it's definitely not the best season, but it's not too far off. So like season 11 was coming down a little bit, but 12 definitely
maybe
like
10 to 11 was a slight decline and like a ramp, and season 11 to 12 is more like a tiny little like step. Almost
it's Bitcoin. Like, it's Bitcoin right now.
I would say like it's not a step, it's that little like lip that you have on your garage door where it just barely raises up from like the driveway. That's the level of drop that I see.
I feel like it might be a little bit more on this season. I just
you legitimately sound hurt by this season. Like I feel like you are going to have therapy sessions one day where you have to point on a doll where this season touched you.
Mm-hmm. And I'll do it the same way Kathy Griffin did and just make grunt noises.
Exactly, dude. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, hey, do you want to go ahead and get into the high points? Because again, we sound pretty fucking sad right now, honestly. But like, there are a lot of really high points in this episode. There are some great episodes, I would say. And I listed my top 5 favorites. I think you did too. Should we talk about those?
I want to know what you had at 6, 7, and 8.
Okay.
I know you don't like doing honorable mention, but I want to know what didn't make the cut.
I did not put these in order, but these are the 3 that I chopped off, and it was Children of a Lesser Claude, Money Caper, and Homer vs. Dignity.
Okay. I knew you were going to have the one thing that was going to throw me off of if we had similar top 5s is if you put Homer versus Dignity in there, because that was not high on my list at all. And you always seem to have an attachment to that one. So that was the one where I was like, is this going to be the monkey wrench in the system that completely destroys everything? So I wrote down 6 episodes.
Okay. So what was your 6?
I'm worried my 6th one's probably going to be in your top 5, but it was Hungry Hungry Homer.
Oh, wow. Right on the cusp.
Yeah, it was Hungry Hungry Homer. That one.
Wow.
And my 5th place one, we're going back and forth. And I was just like, as great of an episode as I felt like Hungry Hungry Homer was, I just felt like when I think about these 2 episodes, my number 5 and then that one, I just feel like I like number 5 more.
As we are just starting this conversation, I already feel like I'm going to have immediately like buyer's remorse on my list or whatever, and be like, no, I got to sub the other one back in. But
my issue was ordering these. This is the toughest time I had ordering same. 1 through 5.
Ordering was tough.
2 through 5 is the one I had the. So my number 5, I made Lisa the Tree Hugger.
Okay. That one just missed my like that would have been the next one on my list if I had made it, but I opted not to write it down because I just knew it wasn't going to make my top 5.
I like the story. We get a little Rich Texan. It was a good Lisa story. I like
the Jackson. Song at the end. Yeah. That's a lot of fun. And you're right. A good use of the guest star on that episode for sure.
Yep. All right. What's your number 4?
Also going back to the very early part of the season, a little sooner.
Oh wait, did you say your number 5?
I'm doing my number 5 right now, even though
I'm
you just
sorry.
said number 4. Yeah, no, you're good. My number 5, going back to very early in the season, I went with A Tale of Two Springfields. I really liked the way that one opened up. That was the first like legit episode outside of the Treehouse of Horror, and I remember being like, all right, season 12, it's off to a good start. I like the musical guest inclusion on this one, and I thought it was just a real fun story that kind of parodies the Berlin Wall. I like that going to your point, it felt like it was very smart humor, and that it was like a parody of historical events, both in like World War II and then also
us getting area codes that we have to enter now.
And then that, and then additionally just grunge music at the time, or like rock and roll like shows at the time.
I thought you were going to go this historical accuracy that we had to start dialing area codes back then.
Well, that's too. I do remember being frustrated that I now had to memorize 10 digits instead of 7. I think that's the day I quit memorizing phone numbers.
And I think it was just awesome because the Simpsons were showing that I felt the same frustration as Homer. And then it was like, oh, wait, are they mocking us nowadays?
See, and that's another one of those things we were talking about where that legit came from in California. There had become so many residents that they had to do, like, I think it was Los Angeles specifically, had to be split into 2 different area codes that had the, for the same city. And that, is how they got that piece of inspiration to have the same thing happen in Springfield.
Which means they had that episode written out and they were doing voice acting for that while they were starting to do that in Texas as well.
Yeah, there you go. I'll go ahead and jump right into my number 4 because you brought it up earlier. I went with Hungry Hungry Homer, man. I was surprised by how much I really enjoyed this episode. It's a sports episode, which can be hit or miss, but I thought this one was really well done. I love the idea that Homer was, fighting against the man, so to speak. And even like the conspiracy aspect where, people like weren't believing him at first and he had to prove that he was right in the end. And yeah, so yes, Hungry Hungry Homer was my number 4 pick.
My number 4, and we've said enough about it already, is A Tale of Two Springfields.
Hey, okay, we were right there in the same area again, so you're not wrong there. All right.
Everything that we just said is 100% accurate on that one, I feel like. So right. I guess I'll go with my number 3. My number 3, I just get a lot of joy each time this episode comes on. I feel like everything about it is fun and there's very little to not like, and that's Skinner's Sense of Snow. I really like that episode.
That is a fantastic episode. I completely agree. Yeah.
Is that your number 1?
It is my number 1. Yes. Skinner's Sense of Snow is my number 1 pick. I'll go ahead and
I'm sorry, I should have said that.
No, you're good.
The look on your face and the fact that that's the littlest you've ever spoken to me in our
yeah, did not slow play that well enough. But no, I'll tell you that I did go with Skinner's Sense of Snow. Man, I love that episode.
It's really, really good.
Yeah, I love a lot about it. I think I really enjoy episodes where it's the kids versus Skinner or like an adult figure or whatnot. And bonus points anytime you team up Homer and Ned to have like a common goal. I think those make for really great moments. So yeah, getting ahead of myself, Skinner's Sense of Snow is my number 1. But my number 3, I'm going to say, is my favorite recording that we did this season by far. Because it's the one that we had Al G on for, and it was really, really cool to get literally a live commentary track about the episode Homer. He was such a great dude to come on and do that with us. But I love the episode as well. It's another situation where, classic Homer being out of character and being smart in this situation because a crayon was lodged in his brain. I love the emotion you get with Homer and Lisa. Where he shoves the crayon back in, essentially. I thought this was a fantastic episode.
It's interesting that you picked that one, Miles. It's really interesting that you picked that one.
Why, is that your number 1?
Yeah, it is.
I figured as much.
I wanted to give it away for you, but yeah. I had that one as my number 1. My only fault with the episode is I feel like they reset too easily.
Yeah, that was a big
where he has the note that falls off his back to Lisa. But it hits that tenderness with Homer and Lisa, and like I feel like it's something that affected me more as an adult, where like he literally could not take how much people did not like him for how smart he was, and that he respected Lisa so much because she literally deals with that nonstop. But I mean, and it's also the classic zaniness of, oh, you're so dumb because I've had my finger over this part of the picture for 12 years and you've had a crayon on your brain the whole time.
I always hold my x-rays like this.
Yeah, it's so stupid, but it works out just perfectly. And it's one that I remembered fondly. And yeah, maybe I moved it up on the list. Maybe I pulled a Miles and it's up there a little bit more because of the Al Jean aspect of it, especially since he picked that one.
Mine might be lower because I was purposely like, don't let that influence you.
Well, that might be a first, but I still think it's a lot of fun. The whole episode's just fun.
Well, we did this in a really weird order.
Yeah, we did.
We just started like with our bottom 5 at the top of the show, and then it's all over the place. How about we do our number 2 pick together on a count? I'll do a 3-second countdown, and we'll both.
I think it's gonna be the same.
It might be. And let's say in 3, 2, 1. New kids on the block. Yeah. Join the Navy, dude. Never have I wanted to join the Navy more than when I watched this episode and when I saw the new Top Gun film, which is incredibly fantastic for military propaganda.
I just think like it was clear that NSYNC was having fun. Like anytime you get Ralph singing like a 19-year-old to 22-year-old. Well, I don't know how old Joey was.
The 4 boys, those pairings, like that's such a great group. Isn't that the same pairing when they go to the wig factory too? No,
Martin was there.
You're right. It's Martin instead of Ralph. But it's fun when you get Nelson kind of in the gang a little bit.
Yeah, and just the whole like even Net Niage and everything about that episode is iconic, and it was impossible to not put that on the list. And I just want to also point out, Miles, that 4 episodes were on both of our lists.
Yeah, I saw that.
And my 6th was almost on the 5 spot, which would have given us the same 5 episodes, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think that sounds correct. The one that I wouldn't have had would be Lisa the Tree Hugger. Oh yeah, right. But if you swap that out, we would have had the same 5, just in a slightly different order. Yeah, 100%. We were pretty close once again, dude. It's wild that keeps happening. I'm curious to see if it will just continue.
Speaks to the other episodes of the season. Like I honestly just think that it's just there was a lot of fun episodes. Like the Tall Tales episode was a lot better than I remembered it. A whole lot.
Tall Tales, I had a bunch that I didn't write down in my top 8 only because when I saw them, like I like that episode, but I know it won't be in my top 5. I wrote down anything that I'm like, this could be in my top 5.
Children of a Lesser Claude. I like that one. I knew I would enjoy
that was
it,
in my almost
yeah.
And the Great Money Caper, I also have like real fond memory. I think that one's fun just with Abe getting involved and all the fun stuff that happens in that too. Admittedly, this was hard just because we talked about though. I had to go back and read the descriptions of every episode on IMDb just to like kind of get like what happened in this one? What happened in this one? And I think it also speaks to the episodes, the ones that like with just a picture, I remember more of exactly what happens.
Yeah, I like the way that I watch the show because I get the picture with the description and I can just hit left, or right, and go through each episode very quickly and get a refresher. But yeah, there's good episodes. There's great episodes this season. To go the alternate way, that there's definitely great episodes this season. I was thinking like I feel like at some point we should do like maybe when we finish season 15. The best episodes from the first 15 seasons and see like
so like the opposite of like the bad bracket, we'll do a good and a bad,
maybe a top 10 and bottom 5 or something like that.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
because here's my thing is that like would any of these top 5s that you just put be on your top 10 list for the first 15 seasons? I feel like that's an interesting idea. Like, how much do we love the old episodes? Because I feel like that does play into it a lot.
What would be wild is I will have to go back and listen, I'm sure, to figure it out. But if we actually go back and listen to our top 5s and we have to, I think this is how we do it. We have to pick our episodes that we already picked. We can't change them up. So we have to go back and get the top 5s that we both picked from each season already. And those are the ones that go into the bracket.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. My thing is, I feel like I listed an episode in season 6 above Lemon of Troy, which hurts me now. I feel like I should take that back. So that one's really bothering me.
Yeah.
It's like, I got to go back and redo that. But I remember in the moment, I feel this way about it. So
yeah,
but
I saw that follow your heart, my dude.
I saw that episode again recently, and I'm like, this is a magnificent episode of The Simpsons.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's better than all these in this season.
It's cool too that like I try not to watch ahead on The Simpsons as much as I can. I'll watch like a really new episode, but like I try not to watch anything like ahead in season 14. Like for instance, when we're doing season 13, I won't watch any episodes until like we've reviewed the one before it type of thing. But this does open me up to a lot of great episodes that I can now kind of just rewatch at will without feeling guilty about it.
You can enjoy your favorite episodes.
Yeah, it's nice. Man, is there anything else that you want to say about season 12 before we officially tie a bow on this box and move on to lucky number 13?
I think I am hurt a little bit by this season, but that was more of the midway to 2/3 of the way through the season. And I do feel like even though most of them were out of the top 5 on the back end of the season, I do feel like that they had some fun moments and some good moments towards the end. But I will still stand by the fact, we talked about it last week when I flipped through my notes. There was like 1 or 2 episodes where I had a whole bunch of notes, and then everything else for the second half of the season, I was struggling to have like 4 or 5 different notes on it.
Mm-hmm.
I am curious to see if that keeps happening, because I've watched the episodes when I had nothing but time and I could sit down, and it's not like I was in a rush where I just had to pay attention and get going. I'm interested to see if maybe we've just adjusted to the show too much. So it's like, oh, well, that happens every week. I don't need to write that down. Whereas in the earlier seasons, it's like,
This is such a fresh and unique idea. Yeah.
I still remember back when we were doing the first like 2 or 3 seasons, I'd be like, well, the tone for this whole season or for this whole episode is this. And it'd be like, oh, well, this is a metaphor for this. And I don't get those feelings anymore. So it's either lazy on my part or that's just the way that it is now. And I'm interested.
And I think that back then when you were doing that for season 1, the episodes were so much simpler though. Like the storylines were far less complex than they currently are. And even just the amount of characters, they didn't have nearly as many to draw from. So I think that there's in large part, just as the show became more complex, it becomes more difficult to just put it into a simple metaphor.
He said in large part.
Right,
and that's the kind of humor we're leaning towards now.
Well, before we wrap it up, we should shout out and thank all of our great guests. Of course, we already talked about Al Jean. That was literally an honor to have him come and talk about one of his favorite episodes. That's so cool.
That was the second time he was on our show too. I mean, that's pretty
man.
Cool.
Wild.
That's pretty cool.
Toby Schofield, Nick Hawk, Jamie Z, Dr. Andrew Briseno, Colton Jones, Hobby Bear, Randy Beam, Billy Hensley on number 300, Dan Danzy for a few of our best darn everythings, Mikey B didn't die, so good for him. We appreciate all of our guests. We probably missed some, and I'm sorry if that's the case, but we look forward to having more awesome, fun conversations with more people in the future. I'm always looking for people that have unique connections to the episodes that we talk about when I'm able to. Admittedly,
did we say thank you to Jamie too? I don't remember hearing
Jamie Z. Yeah, for sure, on our second favorite episode.
Oh, okay. Maybe you just talked so fast I couldn't hear it.
Or maybe I skipped her on accident, but regardless, I didn't intend to. Jamie is one of my favorite guests to talk to. She always brings great conversation and points. And she's, I think after Dr. Andrew Briseno and Toby, she might be our third most prolific guest. I'd have to look that up. I don't know.
And Dr. Andrew Briseno has spoken so much on the show that now everything he says is just useless.
Man, good for him for having a baby too, and also not
congrats
breaking the streak. Yeah, like I was really worried that was going to be the end of the streak for him, but we have managed to have him on at least one episode every single season, and we will continue to do that into season 13. And I'll be honest, guys, I don't have anybody that would be considered like Simpsons celebrity lined up at this point, but I'm going to keep trying. I'm always meeting new people. I'm always having fun conversations, and The Simpsons comes up a lot. So hopefully I'll find some connections to some interesting folks that you'll be wanting to come back with, even if we're talking about some of your not so favorite episodes.
How fun would it be to have somebody like Nancy Cartwright on, but she plays Bart reviewing the episode like it's a found footage thing?
God, dude, that's incredible. Yeah,
that's like a good Simpsons episode right there.
Yeah,
Bart goes on the podcast to talk about what happens with Homer.
I don't know if they would ever break that wall on a I feel like they would do that on like a Treehouse of Horror, maybe. Like that would be a cool, maybe concept.
That would make it better for you. That's your favorite kind of episode right there.
Yeah, that'd be really cool, honestly. Yeah, I like that. All right, guys. Richie, is there anything? I think I already asked you that. Is there anything else that you had to say?
Nah, let's GTFO.
I agree, man. Thank you guys so much, as always, for tuning in to the Best Darn to the Review Show. Thank you for listening and telling a friend, downloading, supporting us on Patreon, hitting us up on Twitter, all of the things that we love that you do. We really, really do appreciate it.
You can follow Miles at Mr. Most Days Off. You can follow myself at TheWiz_Kid23. I do get on Twitter at least once a day now, but I don't like or retweet stuff at all still. But I'm conscious of what's on there, and I see it now. But more important than everything I just said, make sure you follow our show. That's at Best Darn Diddly. That's DIDDLY.
And do make sure you come back again next week when we are going to be kicking off season 13. I still can't believe it, with the episode Treehouse of Horror 12.
And remember, you heard it here first. Miles loved those big parts.
And until next time, be cromulent to each other.